Hey friends, I'm Chris. I'm from Transformation Nation Yoga and Wellness. And today I wanted to bring you just a little mini workshop on this um, anti-inflammatory, immune system boosting tea that you can make. It doesn't take long. It doesn't cost a lot of money. It can be really impactful in your health. So to set this up, let me share this story with you. In my natural resources career, I had this really predictable pattern, and I would push, push, push as hard as I could, both at work and at home until I was completely exhausted, burn the candle at both ends, and then I'd get to the end of a difficult season at work. Things would just lighten up, and then I would get sick. I would get this cold that followed this really predictable course through my body. So it would start with a sore throat and kind of plugged ears and then clogged sinuses, and then eventually the whole thing would move down into my chest. So this happened at least twice a year, every year. There's a lot that we could say on excessive solar plexus chakra energy. There's a lot that we could say about nervous system activation and about a kind of a case study of not following good lifestyle habits. But the interesting thing is where the cold got stuck in the upper respiratory tract. Um, as I got older and older and followed this path enough times, sometimes it would take weeks for this to go away. So when I was probably, I don't know, I was probably 45, and I was going to my acupuncturist for some other issues. And she'd noticed that I was sick, and I went 3 or 4 visits in a row, and still got the same cold and rattly cough. She said, "God, you still got this cold?" I was like, "Yeah, I just can't shake it. I can't seem to get this thing to go away." So she tells me about this tea that I can make from homemade ingredients. So I bought the ingredients on the way home. We had some of them already, but we didn't have everything. I bought them. I made this tea for 3 or 4 days in a row, and the cold went away. The upper respiratory bug completely cleared out. Does it sound too good to be true? Yes, it does. So my experience with things like that is the same as yours. If something seems too good to be true, almost inevitably I find out that it is too good to be true. So this one is different. But don't take my word for it. Verify this with your own experience. You can do this. You can do this experiment in a short amount of time. You can do it at a really low cost to you and see if it works. So I'm going to talk you through a recipe for a homemade ginger turmeric tea. This ginger turmeric tea is it's a 3 ingredient tea. So let me go over the ingredients first as far as what you'll need. You'll need some fresh ginger. You'll need some fresh turmeric. Now, this turmeric you can find like a whitish variety. I don't know what the nutrition of the white versus the red is, but I know that the effect, what I can feel in my body, is not the same in the white. So I really recommend the red. So what I'm going to use today are about 4 large pieces of turmeric. In terms of ginger, I pulled out a great big monster there a moment ago. I'm going to save that for something else tomorrow. But that's a sizable piece of ginger. But I like my tea strong, and I'm going to make a big pot. So those are 2 of the 3 ingredients. Third is black pepper. Now, with that, you'll need covered saucepan. Wouldn't worry too much about the cover. It just helps it to boil more quickly. And some kind of a grater. I've used a $4 flat hand grater from that I bought at 99 Ranch, one of our local Asian markets. My girlfriend has this one. This is a little fancier. Either of them work equally well. And then you'll need something to separate the pulp from the tea proper. Um, I prefer a French press. I've got an old French press, really reliable. But if you don't buy a French press just to make this tea, you could do this with a colander. You could do this with a piece of cheesecloth. I'm a little bit finicky, a little bit particular. I like things done a certain way, and that's the reason that I've got that. And other than that, you're going to need a little bit of water, and that's everything that you'll need to make this tea. Now, when we get into drinking, I'm going to talk about the pros and cons of using honey as a sweetener. It's an option with a caveat, but I'll cover that when we get to the end of this little mini workshop. All right, so where to start? So first of all, I took turmeric and ginger. I really thoroughly washed them. I've got um, the grater and the pot, everything is set up close to the sink. So one cautionary measure with this turmeric, it will stain anything it touches a bright yellow, right, or a red color. So be careful. I wouldn't do this in clothes that are irreplaceable. If you've got a white gown or something, that might not be the thing to use while you're wearing it. Now, another note while I'm talking about it, um, bleach will take those stains out. So even my fingers, after I grate them, they'll look like an old smoker's nicotine stains on my hand. So we'll keep that close by just in case we need it. But we can start the grating process. So I drink this tea like if I go through periods where I'm not sleeping well. First of all, usually from a nervous system standpoint, that means that I need to do something to make an adjustment so that I can start to sleep better. That's job one. Just a little safety note here. You could clip your fingers, wouldn't hurt a thing for some big pieces to be in there. So err on the side of safety for sure. Right, but given that, assuming that I'm doing whatever I need to do for my nervous system and my mental health, or working on my digestion, or whatever it is that's keeping me from sleeping, if I'm not sleeping well, one of the first things that I will do in terms of my immune system is to start to brew a batch of this tea. Uh, I also like if you're going through a period where you're having to burn the candle at both ends, or like right now, this is January 6th, January 7th, 2022, and the Omicron variant of COVID-19 is in force in Houston, Texas, where I live. The rest of the world as well, but we have a lot of cases in Houston. These are the kind of times where I really think about wanting to make sure that my immune system is really top notch, right? So those are the times where you might choose to think about making a tea like this. But here's the other thing, like if you're an athlete, and I don't necessarily mean a professional athlete or a collegiate athlete, but you're an active human being, and you have a lot of inflammation in your body, or maybe you have inflammation for other reasons, then this tea also, if you make it and you grind some black pepper into it, also can be a powerful anti-inflammatory. I think if you try it, I think you'll notice it in your body. All right, so you may have noticed I've grated through all four fingers of the turmeric, and I'm working on our ginger right now. Can you drink too much of this tea? Of course, of course. So I think like during seasons of high stress, or you're starting to feel a cold come on, I think you could drink some days. I have days where I drink quart and a half, even 2 quarts of this a day. But there's a lot of times, if you follow Ayurveda at all, and you're familiar with the doshas, this is a pitta. Ginger is a very pitta activating food, so it heats the body. So it is fiery. So if you have too much, it is very possible to do that, and you will get some heat-related issues with the digestive system. So I've never had heartburn from this ginger turmeric tea, although I can imagine that happened. But I've had like bowel movements that were disagreeable in a hot way, if that makes sense. Hashtag overshare. But you should know what you're getting into. That being said, experiment with this. You would have to drink a lot of it to really drink enough that would cause you those kinds of problems. So now we've got the ginger and the turmeric all grated in our saucepan. I'm going to take some fresh black pepper. I don't believe that it has to be freshly grated. And I think both aesthetically and from a culinary standpoint, it's awful nice to have fresh grated black pepper in anything that you're spicing. And you're going to have to play with the ratios. If you make this and you find it works well in your body, or it's like, I really enjoy the taste. If that's you as well, you'll experiment with how much ginger, how much turmeric, how much water, how much black pepper. I will tell you, I don't have like a recipe that I follow per se, but I kind of eyeball it. I've made this enough times that I know more or less how I'm going to like it. And part of it depends on the occasion too. So if I'm starting to feel sick, I've got a little bit of a sore throat, I'm going to make it stronger than in other times where maybe that's not the issue. All right, I'm going to fill my saucepan a little bit more than 3/4 filled with water. And that's all the prep, friends. Now we just have to put it on the range. All right, friends. Now our ginger turmeric tea is on the range. I'm going to use my girlfriend Letty has this beautiful gas range. I'm going to use the highest setting on here. I'm also going to cover the saucepan. It increases the efficiency of the fuel that you're using to bring this to temperature, and it'll boil much more quickly. Now, one note: this is not a tea that you want to put on the range and then walk away to go mow the lawn or full laundry. One of the quirks about this tea, you're going to want to bring it to boiling, to a light boil, and then immediately shut it off and take off the heat. One, it doesn't need to cook any more than that, but two, it'll boil over quickly and it makes a hell of a mess. That orange stain, that reddish stain that I talked about, that turmeric gets on everything it touches, it'll do that to your range as well. Now again, it'll come off with bleach, but it's not fun to clean it up. So much better to be present, to be there in the moment, and be able to turn this off and take it off the heat as soon as it boils. All right, friends. So our ginger turmeric black pepper solution on the range came to a light boil. I shut the heat off. Now I have a French press. I have the hot tea itself, and I've got some storage vessels. So step one is pouring into the French press. Now you'll see when we get to the bottom of the French press, most of the pulp is going to stick to the bottom. So there'll be a significant amount that comes through, but there's a lot of it in there. So I'll tell you, I don't mind the pulp so much. So I used to make this, just pour it off, strain off most of the pulp, and whatever didn't get strained off, was just fine for me, and I could drink that. But I also make this for other people, and most of the other people for whom I make this don't appreciate getting those big pieces of pulp. I'll show you the residue, the pulp that we have left over when we finish the whole process. So one thing that I've been curious about, and I'm going to, full disclosure, I don't have an answer to this, is it seems wasteful to me to throw all that pulp away, and it seems like there's got to be some other good uses. So I've thought about what would this be like in like a muffin batter, or could you make pancakes or some kind of a bread or something like that. The concern that I have is that these have such a strong taste um, that it might be a little bit overpowering. All right, so you can see right here, there's a little bit of residue of pulp in the French press. There's not a whole crap ton though. So we got about two more pours left here. So if you either experiment with this or you know of something that you can do with the residual ginger and turmeric pulp, please message me, email me, call me, send me a text message. But I'd be really interested in knowing what that is. Right, so I enjoy this, most of the time I enjoy this hot, right? But I also, you'll see I've made a fairly large amount. Right now I'm batching, I'm the only person home, right? So if you look in the bottom, so the lion's share of that pulp, probably 2/3 of that pulp stayed right in the bottom of the saucepan. And almost everything else will be in the French press, right? So it's nice to have some that's made so I don't have to get up first thing tomorrow morning and make any as well. So there was enough. And this was a large saucepan, but I made enough for a quart mason jar, I don't know, maybe a 2-pint mason jar, and a good adult size cup of this ginger turmeric tea. Now, if you've done some canning or they did canning in your family of origin, I know that's the case for me. I'm going to tell you this and you're going to go, well, no doy. But if you put the caps on these while it's good and hot, the process of this cooling will really suck those caps down in, so you'll get a better seal on the jar. Now, I've never had glass break from putting the hot fluids in there. Nonetheless, as these are cooling, I set these in the sink. And I also would be really careful and not run any cold water in the same proximity. So that's it. I've got my cup here. Now, I did want to mention, I referenced earlier One way to enjoy this is with some local honey, right? So local honey, depending on the temperature of the fluid that you put it in, can really enhance the immune system effect, especially with respect to local allergens. However, from an Ayurvedic standpoint, you want the temperature of the tea to be such that you could comfortably, fairly easily stick your finger in the warm tea and hold your finger in there. If the tea is too hot for your finger, it is too hot for the honey. It will and that hot fluid will denature the honey, and it actually has an opposite effect. It'll start to gunk up your system. So I drank this the first year or two that I was drinking this tea. I drank it with the honey most of the time. Now I very, very rarely put, like if I'm making this for somebody else, then sometimes I'll put the honey in it, but otherwise I drink it just as it is. All right, friends, I wanted to close with just a note on cleanup. As I mentioned, one of the quirks about turmeric is that anything it touches, it will stain an orange yellowish color. So, like, I don't know how well you can see it in the video here, but like it looks pretty bad. So I will tell you, my girlfriend would not be thrilled if she came home from Mexico and I had all the dishes in the house looking like this. But check this out. In our house, we like Clorox cleanup. It doesn't have to be Clorox cleanup. Any bleach product will do this. And you may or may not be able to see, but it changes the yellowish orange to a red. And then most of that will wash off. All of it will scrub off after that. You could do this if you get this on your countertop. You could do this if you get it on your floor. But it's an amazing cleaning product for that. So to close out, friends, again, let me just remind you of who I am. I'm Chris, and where I'm from. I'm from Transformation Nation Yoga and Wellness, and this was why you might want to make your own fresh ginger turmeric tea, what you'll need, how to make it, the cleanup process. Um, as I mentioned in the beginning, the claims that I made in terms of the immune system in my cold story sounds too good to be true, right? That's what I'd be thinking if I was on the other end. And if it cost you thousands of dollars in order to verify this on your own, you might choose to let that go. But it won't. It won't. You've already got a saucepan in your house. Chances are you have a grater. You probably have a colander or a French press. I bet you've got some ginger in your house. You certainly have black pepper. You may already have fresh turmeric, but if not, that's the only thing you'll need to buy. So you can find all of these ingredients at most grocery stores. I will tell you here in the Houston, Texas area, HEB, I think is an excellent grocery store. It's not where I would choose to buy turmeric. It comes in very small, prepackaged, and it's pretty expensive. Kroger is a good choice. So are some of the Asian markets, 99 Ranch. I like Fiesta for turmeric as well. So those are some sources as well. So enjoy this. If you can think of other immune system boosting practices that might be useful that I can distill into a mini workshop for you, please pass that along. And please know I'm thinking of some better ways that I can serve you as well.